All right, so now I'm gonna look at some of your comments, and then I'll transition to what we will talk about for the solutions discussion. The solutions discussion that I will have with you guys, the audience members on Discord, is related to freedom of the press. And yes, we will start this conversation out by talking about the news recently about that was revealed regarding Pompeo and what he wanted to do to Julian Assange, which is not surprising at all, especially after hearing how Hillary Clinton was asking how she wants to drone strike. She was like, why don't we just drone him? That was documented. So we'll talk about that. And I also have some questions that I'd like to ask you guys if you're interested in this conversation. I have one question here. Should we be discussing more about other political prisoners and working class prisoners who were jailed for BS charges, like for drugs or selling drugs, using drugs, or people who had no fair trial, etc.? Should we be raising awareness about those people? And the second question I would like to ask my panel when I have you guys on is about the prison system. What is the best way to deal with crime in an ideal society? But I will say, in regards to that first question I asked about talking about working class prisoners in addition to political prisoners, is without a free press, we cannot challenge power as effectively. That power that the ruling class has will grow as they continue to enrich themselves by destroying people in other countries, stealing resources, and having more power to change laws, to oppress us even more here at home, change laws so that they can have more of us in jail, right? So this was where the news came out about the what Pompeo wanted out of Julian Assange, said kidnapping, assassination, and a London shootout inside the CIA's secret war plans against WikiLeaks. So what it says here, some senior officials inside the CIA and the Trump administration even discussed killing Assange, going so far as to request sketches or options for how to assassinate him. Discussions over kidnapping or killing Assange occurred at the highest levels of the Trump administration, said a former senior counterintelligence official. There seemed to be no boundaries. The conversations were part of an unprecedented CIA campaign directed against WikiLeaks and its founder. The agency's multi-pronged plans also include extensive spying on WikiLeaks associates, sowing discord among the group's members, and the stealing their electronic devices. And as what was reported on the Gray Zone or on Moon of Alabama and on Consortium News, we know that the CIA collaborated with some organizations in Spain to spy on Julian Assange. They even went as far as to look outside of his trash and look at some diapers to see if the baby that was there was his, and trying to listen to conversations that would take place in the bathrooms in the Ecuadorian embassy. And if anyone is involved in spreading the truth, or if anybody is skeptical and questioning the government, there's potential for all of us to go through things that are similar to this. But this all happened, this is following the Vault 7 leaks. So President Trump's newly installed CIA director, Mike Pompeo, was seeking revenge on WikiLeaks and Assange, who had sought refuge in Ecuadorian embassy since 2012 to avoid extradition to Sweden. On rape allegations he denied. Pompeo and other top agency leaders were completely detached from reality because they were so embarrassed about Vault 7, said a former Trump national security official. They were seeing blood. So because they were so embarrassed about the war crimes that they were committed, they wanted to kill the messenger, who did nothing different from any other journal outlet would do, including mainstream journal outlets would do, like the New York Times. They receive information, they can publish that. It's legal. So Kevin Gostola tweeted this out, said former CIA director Mike Pompeo calls for mass prosecutions for sources who spoke to Yahoo News. Reporters about plans to kidnap or kill Assange. So it's consistent, right? Assange embarrassed me. Let me go after him. Oh my God, these guys who spoke to Yahoo News, they embarrassed me. Let me go after them. He said, whoever those 30 people are who allegedly spoke with one of these reporters, they should all be prosecuted. You, sir, should be prosecuted for your war crimes. Unbelievable. Uh, so let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Let me check out the Rockfin chat. And so, see, let me know what your thoughts are on all this in the Rockfin chat. And I'll open up Discord right now. We can start the conversation. Opening up with the question, should we be discussing more about other political prisoners and working class prisoners, so other political prisoners, in the not just Julian Assange, but people like Daniel Hale and Reality Winner, other political prisoners, Mumia Abu Jamal, and working class prisoners who were jailed for BS charges. Sounds good. Yeah, so just let me know what your thoughts are on what just transpired, with the news that was released on Yahoo News about Pompeo and everything, and about the question I asked, like, should we be talking more about other political prisoners in addition to Julian Assange, making this a more, maybe it will be more relatable to other people by talking about other people. What do you guys think?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Well, let me go first really quick. Dude, number one, you're a king. Brown power, representation matters. The Peru protest rally the other day was amazing. Awesome show.
Thank you. Thank you. I
So,
appreciate that.
my whole thing is that I come from the Panama Revolution. I'm a survivor of the Panama invasion. And I guess my whole thing that our generation is inspiring me to do is to tell people the story of Panama. And it's the same copy paste story that we have been seeing ever since the 90s with Evo, with Chavez, with Maduro, with Fidel and Raul, even in the 90s when they got falsely accused of drug trafficking. And I welcome anyone to read the book America's Prisoner by General Noriega, or go to generalnoriega.com to see all the testimonials from all the agents and players who were involved who claimed his innocence ever since and admitted that everything was a scam. So basically, everything that has happened since with Manuel Noriega has happened to Julian Assange. And it's the kind of thing where I would hope people can see the pattern. For example, they spied on Noriega in the trial. They spied on in his cell and his conversations with his lawyers. They didn't have proof of anything, and they spent his entire life moving him from prison to prison so that he wouldn't go back to Panama and, start the revolution again. So it's a whole thing where it's obviously they're trying to silence all the people who are revolutionaries. And yes, we should learn. Obviously, the white people get all the media attention. But at this point, yeah, we should learn to study black and brown revolutionaries, people who have been falsely accused, who are nameless, countless, and thousands of millions at this point, and just keep showing people that the pattern is still happening. And justice will be served, because in the end, history will absolve us. But I guess that's all I have to say. Let's keep checking the parallelisms between the past and the present, and realizing that these people are the same people who are in power. They're still today, like Abrams and Bush's people and all the people and Rubio and Cruz and all those people who started in the 80s are in power now, and they were all part of the Panama deception, all the false flags ever since. So yeah, let's just stay alert, and thank you guys.
Yeah, I like how you tied that in, like how it's similar to Julian Assange, like it's false charges, and he was trying to spread the truth, spread awareness about the coup in Panama and what the U.S. did. Uh, so if you, I think this issue should be talked about more. I'll put my email information if you don't yet have it, if you haven't, believe I have it in my description somewhere, but I'll put my email there, and I can get more information about this, right, and see if I can have you or someone else on to talk about what happened in Panama further. So how long ago did this happen for this political prisoner?
Well, it happened with the Panama invasion in 1989, and Manuel Noriega, they kept him locked up until his death, 2014.
Oh,
But it was, he had sort of, they called it like a VIP prison because it was a scam. So, he at least had the Geneva Convention protected. He was a prisoner of war, so there are protections. There are ways to get the Red Cross, paying attention, and all these other organizations. But it's all about worldwide accountability. Like, it's good that the attention is on him, but let's use that light and shine the light onto others who are experiencing the same thing, even in our own backyard.
yeah, yeah. Like when we discuss issues like Julian Assange, right, which has the spotlight in the independent media sphere, like we can say, yeah, there's these political prisoners as well. Check out how similar this story is, and then to talk about that, and then that can be then your audience is now familiar with it, and then it can be a bridge for an interview with someone who's who knows more about this issue, and then you can inform your audience even further, and then we can stand in solidarity with movements that are protesting for the liberation of some of these other political prisoners, or for demanding justice for people who died, as victims of being held in prison for unjust reasons, for just exposing imperialism, right? Or fighting against imperialism.
Preach. And really quick, even just on a small scale, Chelsea Manning, whenever she started her Patreon and her Discord, one of her first Twitch, she started explaining how the smartest people that she's ever met, and the people who are the most comrades, were the people in the law library in prison, who spent their time working together and collaborating on how to study the Constitution, which was like the only document that they legally were able to use in their defense, in their trials and all these things. So she gave a lot of tips on how, even in your own backyard, the prisons in your own hometown have the smartest people organizing and mobilizing together, fighting against these things, and just trying to find any document, any legal evidence that they can to help their cases, and whether they be allowed or not, that's another thing.
So does anyone else have anything else they want to say about this? Judas 1184 and Shim, you guys have anything to add on to what we're discussing here?
Well, in the case of Assange, they're running out of time because the people that watch mainstream media are definitely getting old, and so I think that the passports and mandates and censorship, I think that's all bringing us down, because they realize they're gonna, Julian Assange could get much larger voice within the public narrative as time goes on, because the population that subscribes to Fox, CNN are definitely getting older and passing on.
Yeah. Judas, what are your thoughts?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, good. All right. So, first of all, I haven't called before, so bigs up on the channel, and with
Thank you.
Nico, you guys are doing wonderful work. Keep up the great job. It's hard, but just keep at it. I'm impressed, let me tell you. But
Thank you.
I just want to share something with you. All right. So we're talking about Julian Assange. You just had the brother talk about Panama. Understand that whenever these stunts are pulled anywhere in the world, it's the same team for logical reasons. You see, you gotta be an expert when you're doing this. When you either overthrowing a government, sabotaging, a company, whatever it is. I want to share something with you. Just yesterday, they dropped a new documentary by it's Independent Pop. I don't know if you heard of them before or if you watched their documentaries. They had the British Empire, the Spider's Web, and then they have I forget, but just take this one down. The Man Who Knew Too Much. All right.
The Man Who
If
Knew
you
Too
want
Much.
The Man Who Knew Too Much by Independent Pop, POV. I bring it up for because we're talking about Assange, and you know the stunts that they pulled in Sweden, in the courts, with his wife in the embassy, whatnot, right? And this guy that's featured in the documentary, he was arrested too. But the thing is, he was in charge of doing the propaganda. Okay, but he ran afoul with the empire, so they try to take him down. And if you follow his story, you see all the methods that they use to censor, to kill, because they killed people. You know, they go through it. So that's pretty much it. You know, just keep the hope alive and keep the struggle going. You're doing great, bro.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's common patterns that we see, right? Like the way they want to kill, these people that expose the truths. And now we see Pompeo's even trying to go after these 30 people that came forward and spoke with Yahoo News, which is a mainstream outlet.
Yeah.
It's
Nah,
crazy.
these people are dangerous. But go ahead.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, you guys have any final words you guys want to say about this question? About how we should talk more, if we should discuss more about other political prisoners and working class prisoners who are jailed for BS charges like drugs, uh, or they had no fair trial. Like when we go to these events, these direct action events, like when we're protesting for Assange or other political prisoners, should we raise awareness about the unjust political system, prison system as well, and how there's people in prison right now for BS charges?
Definitely.
Yep.
And what would you
I
guys
have a
say?
quick example.
Yeah.
Something that happened this year, for example, the movie Judas and the Black Messiah about Fred
Fred
Hampton.
Hampton.
And, of course it was sanitized, it was Hollywoodized, and Fred Hampton Jr., he willingly went out there in the press tour, and the rest of the Black Panthers came out, and they started getting all these Zoom interviews and working with Black Horror Media and all these things to help spread the truth about what was going on, because he said that even though they changed things about the movie, like it wasn't just one man, it was obviously a lot of infiltrators and a lot of other things that happened, it still brought attention to it. So he still was able to tell his story. He was able to go to all these Oscar events and tell the story the right way, as a person. So things like this where pop culture, and I noticed that a lot of, comrade Twitter and leftist YouTube ignored these Black Panthers who were coming out and telling their story after so many years. They didn't have them on their shows. So it's more things like this where if we can take a pop culture moment or just any event or anniversary or something and call these survivors in, or find a way to let them speak their voice and keep telling their story, would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah. That's how these rallies should be, right? Like if you have an anti-war protest, you have like veterans speak about, what they experienced in war. But yeah, having working class people talk at these events, it's more relatable, to the people who are there. And like it's like, hear my story. And the people who pass by, which is the most effective protests, are the ones in which we have the passerbyers get informed about things that they didn't know were happening. They hear from these stories from people that had these experiences regarding these issues. Shim, you want to add anything else on, man?
No, not really. But this is you have this Discord for solutions, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and you're gonna ask questions tonight, or are you gonna say solutions at some point, or is this how's it gonna play out?
Yeah, this was a part of it, like what should be included in conversations, when discussing like political prisoners, like what is how can we make this like more relatable to people, like
Right.
when we talk about political prisoners.
Well, I don't know, but
Yeah.
on your end, it's you got to stay alive. It's a money issue. That's there's no sense having some things sell, some don't, right? So at your end, it's you know you can go down these routes. How effective they are at actually making any change, I don't know, but because we don't seem to be getting anywhere. Let's face it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like,
So this next question is about the prison system. And then in an ideal society, what would you say is the best way to deal with crime in an ideal society? So in other words, like what are we demanding and when we ask for change in our prison system, right? What is our ideal view of what a prison system should look like?
well, that's you just take the Nordic models on that, and you just say it's for rehabilitation as opposed to punishment, right? Because
Yeah.
the poverty is what causes everything. If you take poverty out of the equation, then you don't have all these problems.
Yep. Yep, exactly. Yeah, I agree. Like using it more, I guess, for rehabilitation. Is there anything that you think, like any type of crime that wouldn't warrant that? Or you think everyone is deserving of rehabilitation, even if they're uh, like the worst of the worst, like murderers or rapists? What would you
Yeah,
say?
well, sorry, yeah, but they have like we pay like like $300,000 a year salaries for certain individuals that have taken a lot of schooling, right? That are should be making those decisions, right? Like that's beyond our ability to like that's not in our like we can have an opinion, in other words, but it's not within our realm of that's a subject that would be dealt with within the system.
Mm. So Fidel, you have anything you want to say about that?
I'd say look at the China model,
The China
and
model.
but also I believe in, yes, rehabilitation for everyone, but not exactly, maybe not exactly reintegration for everyone, because even with the pandemic and everything, um, I believe in abolishing prisons, but so maybe I would be more in support of like house arrest for people who can or who have them, or like you know things like that. But I believe in, yeah, education is just number one. And yes, like if people didn't feel so desperate, if people were able to get the right education, the right health care, because not even education, like not everyone uh, has the ability to go to school, but people do need health care, number one. So if people's basic needs could be taken care of, yes, things will for sure change.
Yeah. You're getting at the root of it, right? Like what's the best way to reduce crime is by giving people the things that they need, like their basic needs. Like the reason why we have crime or terrorism is because people are in a position of desperation. Uh, so yeah, you want to elaborate more on like what the China model is?
Well, I'm not an expert on all these things, but from what I hear,
Hmm.
the U.S. likes to portray China and their prison system as like some sort of concentration camp thing, which is obviously fake and debunked, because there are multiple uh, benefits that have come out of re-education and rehabilitation and taking care of people's basic needs so that you could fix the 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 issues with society, because otherwise nothing will change. So whatever the US is doing, do the opposite. Let's do the opposite of that.
Yeah, well
Well,
said. You were gonna say something, Shim?
yeah, I was going to say, well, model is definitely a capitalist model. Like, there's money to be made in every avenue in it. Like, it's right from the bail bonds to, through the whole thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a for-profit prison system that just enslaves people.
Gig.
Yeah, rather than making them functional people of society.
Yeah, the well-being of the individual, and people like to push things on choices, but a lot of times there's no choice, right, in life, and so people get caught up in it, and then of course they get exploited.
Absolutely. All right, guys, thank you very much for for coming on and talking about about the prison system and about political prisoners, how we can make this be more relatable to people who aren't as informed as us. Thanks a lot, Shim, and thanks a lot, Fidel. And at this time, we will. I'll reopen the Discord chat. Where I'll hang out with some of you guys in a little bit. I'm just gonna take a break real quick, and I'm also gonna end the stream. And I wanna let everyone know here. Thank you guys very much for watching. I really appreciate all the help that you guys give me, as well as my colleagues. My colleagues in the MCSE network, as well as my colleagues that are the sister channels. Like helping out Hardlands Media, Jimmy Dore, Fred Hampton Leftists, people like Ramiro Sebastian Funes, other people like Reed Coverdale. I really appreciate that. The Lone Wolf Podcast, who just showed up. People who are just getting started with their channels, like Shadowban Refugee, Jack Sith. We're all in this together to try to inform as many people as we can and come up with solutions and demands so that we can have a country that actually works for us, right? So Savvy Sabs as well. Thank you, Gamer. It's really wonderful to see Rob, who just showed up earlier, who's going to be on the show next week. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Once again, I'll be on the Discord, and let me remind you guys again, you guys can, if anything happens to this channel, there's this backup channel right here. All right, and I'm also on Rockfin. All right, my Rockfin channel is right here. I have so many so many more followers here than I have subscribers on YouTube. All right, guys, thank you all very much, and as always, stay informed. We'll see you guys later.